Welcome to Give Me the Remote, a safe space for all the couch potatoes that can't get enough of their favorite shows and movies. We're your hosts, a sister and brother duo raised on The Office, How I Met Your Mother, and SNL, just to name a few.
I'm Anne, your cringy older sister.
And I'm Joe, your cool younger brother. So,
So,
welcome to our second episode. This is exciting.
today we talk about adolescence. But before we get into that, let's talk about some fun media news that came out this week. They finally announced the cast for that new HBO Harry Potter show that's coming out.
They did.
Yeah.
A lot of buzz around that. I think you did some research into some of these people. Not really.
Not really, but
we have. I think the biggest name that I think most
Yeah.
people recognize
Yeah.
is like you said, John Lithgow
Yeah,
as Dumbledore.
I'm
which
super
is-
excited about that. He is like, he has major dad energy, in my opinion. He's perfect for Dumbledore.
Well, you know that because you think that because he's Barney's dad in How I Met Your Mother.
Well, yeah, probably. But
think-
I think he has
yeah.
great comedic energy, and I think what we were saying is we hope he brings that comedic energy to the role. I know he just did Conclave, which you did not watch.
I did not know anything about it.
I
or-
watched the first 10 minutes of Conclave. It's about like the Pope dies and then they're going to elect the next Pope and all the cardinals come in and there's all that drama. I got through like 20 minutes of it. It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But good to know he has the
Yeah.
dramatic acting chops. That way.
I just hope it doesn't. It's not like classic HBO like Euphoria or like overly serious. I hope they keep that like childlike innocence to the show because like that's like the beauty of Harry Potter in my opinion, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
think they, from my perspective, if I were them, I think you would kind of start it as similar to the originals as you could. And then as they get older, maybe like, I don't know, when they're in their teenage years, then you can lean a little bit more into the HBO-ness
yeah.
or whatever they can do.
Like
in
once
that-
you
that
grow
realm,
with
yeah.
the characters from childhood, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is cool.
And obviously, it doesn't have to be like Euphoria. that
Yeah,
level
I mean,
of
speaking of
adulthood.
adolescence, that's a great
it's true.
segue
We're-
into the topic of discussion. So, I mean, I watched all the episodes a couple weeks ago, and I mean that's
Same.
when everyone was talking about it. It was like all over the media, a bunch of it would just keep popping up on my reels. That iconic sandwich scene, that was like, I saw that scene on social media, and then that's what got me to sit down and watch it. I don't know what.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what made you watch it. You just saw
I
it
think
pop
I
up on Netflix.
saw. I think I saw a few clips on like Instagram Reels,
Yeah.
and I had read about the sandwich scene, or at least seen like a article
Yeah.
about the sandwich, analyzing it. I was like, oh, what is the deal with this sandwich? So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't want to spoil the show for myself, so I just kind of tried to avoid any spoilers and then kind of jumped into it,
Yeah,
which
well,
was yeah.
let's do that. I mean, okay, so right now it has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is like, I mean,
Really
it's
good,
it's a
yeah.
damn good. It from every aspect, it's just a damn good show. I think one of the things that people are like super like just impressed by is the one-shot filming.
Yeah, I think it's definitely very unique. in
I mean,
that
I didn't
sense.
even know that that was a thing. But when I did some research on it, I think people that know a little bit more about like filming and things like that often associate Birdman with one-shot filming, which when I looked into
Yeah.
it, it actually wasn't truly a one-shot film. It was
Yeah, no,
made
usually
to
they're
look that
never
way.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of like Dunkirk, and that's another like, if you watch it from start to finish, it feels like a
Which
one-shot
one is
film.
Dunkirk? Is it, and
That's
was
like
it truly
the-
one-shot?
No, it was not. I don't think it was truly
Yeah.
one-shot because it's
But
like
it was made to look that way.
it was
Yeah.
made to look that way. Exactly. I think it's just usually there's too much action, choreography, stunts, especially that it would be impossible to do it in one shot. But I
can't do
think
it, yeah.
Adolescence, at least it's much more of a play than it is
Yeah.
like kind of a big action film. So I think it makes sense that
They
they
were able
could
to
do
do
it
it.
in a one shot, but
Yeah.
it's still incredibly
I
impressive
mean,
that they were able to do it
episode
like
two, I think, was when before I knew that it was one shot filming, and then after when I found out, I'm like, how did they even do episode two?
Yeah. I
That's
didn't even know until the
crazy.
very end. And I was like watching a YouTube
Yeah.
video and I was like, whoa. I thought they
Like,
were just
whoa.
like hiding the
Yeah.
cuts in some of these transitions, but no, it
Yeah.
was just truly one shot,
There is
which
a
is very
Variety
impressive.
article that apparently last minute executives asked that the show be filmed this way. Like, this
Oh,
was a
interesting.
last
That came from
minute
the
call.
executives.
Yeah, like, I don't know that when they originally wrote this, that they were like, yeah, this is going to be a one shot film.
Mm.
Maybe conceptually they like, the thought passed through their mind, but the final call, I think, was a last minute call right before filming started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it definitely added to the show. I don't think it was something that it wasn't necessarily just to make it, interesting or that's the draw. I think it added to the storytelling.
Yeah.
Especially for me I think the third episode, and the first episode, it really helped kind of drive the points of those episodes home for
So
me,
let's
at
get
least.
into that first episode. This is the episode, I mean, it starts off at the upteenth level of drama. You have the SWAT team knocking down this very like middle class suburban family's
Mhm.
front door on a random like weekday morning, breaks down the door, runs in, goes past like a very normal looking father, mother, sister, goes into this kid's room and like says he is going to be arrested on charge or suspicion of murder. And
Mhm.
then the little boy like wets himself in the bed. Like it
Yeah.
is a very crazy but like very like well thought out orchestrated beginning to this like saga of like of a short series.
And
Um
it kind of like speed runs characterization for everyone, just to kind
yes,
of burst in,
immediately.
and you're like seeing all of their lives
Yep.
kind of in this quick snippet.
Mm-hmm.
And it does a lot to kind of drive home, at least for Jamie's character, like, oh, this is a kid. He
Yeah, this is just a
naturally,
little
like,
kid.
someone busted into his room,
He
he's
still wets
gonna
his
wet
bed.
himself because
Yeah,
there's a gun in his face. It makes
yeah.
sense.
My immediate thought is, I don't think this kid did it. That was
I
what
say
I. Wait, really? Yeah, you didn't
I did.
think
I mean,
that he
because
did it.
I didn't read anything about the show.
Me
I just had
neither.
like seen a
Yeah.
few like small
Mm-hmm.
clips that weren't related to really Jamie at all, and
Mm-hmm.
I just was like, oh my God, who's the real killer here? Because
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. I was
yeah.
like, oh, did one of his friends set him up? Like throughout the
Hmm.
episode, I think, fast forwarding quickly to like the police interrogation of him,
Hmm.
when they brought up his friends in the first episode, I was immediately like, oh, he's covering for one of them. There's no
Yeah.
way this shy little, adorable little kid murdered someone.
Yeah.
Is that kind of
I
what you
because
were thinking?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's more. I mean, I wasn't even thinking like any potential suspects. I was just thinking,
Mm-hmm.
it just can't be him because
It
like he's
can't
a
be him.
kid.
Yeah.
He's so
Mm-mm.
innocent looking and young looking.
Yeah.
It would feel wrong if he did it.
Which I
Um,
think was intentional. I think they
yeah, I mean
wanted
that's the
him.
casting was
Yeah.
phenomenal for to
Yeah.
get somebody both capable of acting to that degree and also
Mm-hmm.
looking that young is
Mm-hmm.
just
It was an amazing
they knocked
combo.
it out of the park.
This is this actor's first like foray into acting, Owen
Hmm.
Cooper. To find someone capable of that on their first like show ever. I think it was also important though to cast someone that's never been in anything else because you do want some like novelty to them. Like you don't want them
Hmm.
to bring any baggage from a previous role into a role like
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I think even if he had done a previous role, I doubt it would
Hmm.
have been like a villainous
Right.
character that could have maybe made it a little easier to swallow the pill that he
Yeah.
killed this
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
I think it would have still hit home even if
Yeah.
he had played other people before.
Agreed. I think the first episode, I mean, I think to me, the first episode was the most exciting. The most plot moved forward, in my opinion, in that first episode. The
Mm.
following three episodes kind of examined what happened in that first, those
Hmm.
first episode. The first episode is very exciting.
Yeah.
I think that was very smart of them to make that the first episode, honestly, because if the other episodes had led before all of that
Hmm.
excitement, I might not have stuck around. I don't know.
That's fair. I mean, I think
Like,
it's more the whole point of the show is it posits a question, or
Mm-hmm.
by first saying this is what happened. Like, there's
Right.
no maybe he didn't do it, maybe he did do it. Like at the very end of
Mm-hmm.
the first episode, you know he
You
did it.
get the yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and I
You get
think
solid
then
evidence.
which makes sense. Then they just take the next three episodes to just answer the question why,
Mm-hmm.
and I think
Mm-hmm.
that kind of structure really worked here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first episode, just a quick run through. They get him. They do like that very. I think it really upset the father when they stripped him
Hmm.
down, checked him for weapons, all of those things. They processed him as a criminal, and then they sat him down for an interrogation. And he had a lawyer. I think that
Hmm.
was appointed to him by the government
Yeah, it was
appointed
like
lawyer
their
or whatever.
version of a public defender type
Right,
thing. Yeah.
right. And so the lawyer was like advising them and telling him not to answer certain questions and things like
Hmm.
that. And then finally you get to the interrogation scene and you've got the lawyer, him, and the father. And I think they had the piece of evidence where they show him actually stabbing the girl to death. And
Yeah,
the
the
lawyer said,
CCTV
don't watch
footage.
that. And the father's so confident in his son
Yeah.
because he just can't even contemplate that his son could
Yeah,
do
he's like,
anything
there's
like
no
this.
evidence they could
There's no
bring that would
evidence, right?
change what
And then they sit
I
there and
think
they play the
happened.
video, and then it's like the dad's like, "Oh my God, he did it! Like that's
Hmm.
crazy." Um,
And all throughout, Jamie is like asking his father, like, you don't think I did this,
mhm,
right? You don't think I did this, right? And
right.
he did do it. And
I
that
just,
makes
you
it
know
all
what's
hurt so much more.
crazy is typically stories like this when they're portrayed in the media, it's a psychopath. Like the kid
Hmm.
is a psychopath or something, and that's why he did it. I think it's so interesting that this series, he's kind of a regular kid that was radicalized.
Yeah.
This is not someone that was born with with a true psychopathic personality. This is someone that was cultivated that way from, like Andrew Tate podcasts and
Hmm.
things like that in the media, which was so interesting.
Yeah, I think they do a lot to show that he has like empathy and he does care about like what other people think of him, and
Mhm. Mhm.
he's in many ways like every other teenage boy
Right.
that you would ever
He's just an
encounter in the world.
insecure like
Yeah.
teenage boy. I think
Yeah.
that's the point they were trying to drive home.
And yeah, I mean I think that yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I think that kind of captures the first episode.
Hmm.
Um, Gosh, I'm trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to talk about from that episode. Oh, so the way that the episodes were filmed, I think the third episode with the therapist was actually the first one that they shot. So by
Hmm.
the time the actors filmed episode one, they had done this a few times.
Yeah.
So they were actually able to get the first episode done with one shot filming on their second take, which is I I to kind of put that into perspective, episode 2 they took on their very last take, and by very last take they have 5 days of filming allotted for each episode. So the
Hmm.
second episode they were on day 5 out of 5 for that one episode on their like I think it was the second to last take or the final take? Yeah, it's like time.
That's of the week. That's
Hmm.
incredible.
Yeah, yeah. But I think part of the reason they were able to get through episode 1 a little more quickly is for them it was actually like episode 3. Like it was later on in filming, which I
And
think
it's just a
yeah,
less complex. I mean, it
it
was
was less
still
complex,
they're
yeah.
moving through the whole police station and there's a lot
Yeah.
going on, but it compared to the second episode, it's a lot
Hmm.
better.
My final thought for episode 1 is when they played the video and they showed him stabbing her, you didn't get a clear shot of his face. And his friend kind of looks like him. So he has two friends. One is
Yeah,
like a black
small
kid.
small British
One
boys.
one
They
is
can look
like
similar.
a white
Yeah,
kid with
yeah,
brown
yeah.
hair that looks very similar to him. So I was like, is it his friend wearing his sweatshirt?
Mm,
I thought that for a second. So then we get into the second episode.
mm,
Second episode, in my opinion, was a work of art. I don't know what you thought
mhm.
visually about episode 2.
Oh no, so many things that they like had to choreograph. It really is basically a play.
Mm-hmm.
but way harder than a play because the stage is like across this entire like school.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know how they managed to kind of draft it all out and make it work, but they did.
Mm-hmm. What I found so impressive about episode two is that it was shot at his school, and it
Hmm.
had probably like at least 100 young child actors and extras all creating this landscape or like this like background for the detectives to like walk through. That
Hmm.
is so much orchestration
Yeah,
and like
and they
so much,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
and they have like production assistants and stuff like kind of
Mm-hmm.
hidden in acting as like school advisors and stuff, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like giving direction to these kids, but also
Mm-hmm.
like having to tell them sometimes, like for the big fight scene,
Mm-hmm.
where Katie's friend kind
Right.
of punches
Mm-hmm.
Jamie's friend, and they kind of had to be like, the production assistants acting
Yeah.
as teachers are going to tell
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
stop fighting, don't like get back into line,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
don't listen to them because that's
Right.
all part of the scene. And it's like
That's
that
crazy.
level of like choreography with among like hundreds of
Wait, so the
extras is
production assistants were playing teachers?
like they were kind of embedded as counselors. It's like some of the adults in the crowd of people, like just trying to manage, like, because I mean, it's like there's so many
Yeah.
people you have to
There's so many
direct them,
kids.
especially getting all the kids out and in line
Yeah.
and like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't all do that themselves. They
Oh,
need
that's
some kind of
incredible.
outside help, which is, I think it
Wow, I
added
did
a
not know
lot.
that. That is really incredible. I think at one point they were using a drone to film episode two,
I think at
right?
the very ending scene, after the cop kind of chases Jamie's friend down and then goes back
Mm-hmm.
to his car, they were trying to kind of decide what they wanted to do. And they
Mm-hmm.
were like, it would be really cool if we get a drone shot. But then, like, how do you get this camera and then, like,
Yeah.
launch it in the air? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you watch the behind the scenes, they kind of grab it. They grab the camera, the drone kind of comes down, they hook it into place, and then it goes up, and then it goes to Jamie's dad, putting the
Oh, to do
flowers
the memorial.
nearby, yeah, to that parking lot. And I think that it just like mind blowing
Mm-hmm.
that they were
I
able
mean,
to
I love
accomplish
I
all that.
love that even with all of this like cinematography and visual like beauty of this like flow of an episode, all this orchestration, they still told a very clear narrative.
Hmm.
And just a quick run through of episode two, detectives go to the school to do some further investigation. They have their suspect, they don't know why he did it. So it kind of works the detectives through interviewing different classmates and his friends and all these different people to try to figure out why he might have been motivated to murder his classmate.
Hmm.
And I love how you're just like walking. You start the episode, the detectives are walking in, then they pass the camera off to his friends, and you get this nice little side conversation from his friends. And then you follow them through the school, and then they pass the camera back to the detectives, and then the detectives, like, it's just beyond me how they did that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would have burst out laughing
I
at
know,
least
that's the
half
thing,
the
so
time,
much
and that would
pressure,
have
right?
ruined it.
Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. I wonder like how mad they were at like the one person that like,
Especially if you make the mistake at the very end of the
yeah,
take, it's like, ooh,
oh my God,
you
so
just cost
rough.
like
I mean, I'm
hundreds of
sure that
people having
happened.
to. Yeah, I know, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it
And
happened.
I doubt it was people breaking. It was more just like, oh, you
Things
weren't
not
at your
going
mark
right.
at the right time and the
Yeah,
camera
yeah,
just missed you, that
yeah.
type of thing.
The second episode, I think the series went from most exciting to least exciting. No offense. Great show. But I
Hmm.
think second episode, I was like, it was visually very exciting. The narrative, like the plot, not a lot felt like it happened, but you were kind of suspicious of how the friend that looked like him might be involved.
Hmm.
And I like how at the very end you get that nice little, like, almost like a reward for being along for the ride where the detective's son pulls him aside and like decodes the comments on his social media, and he's like, don't you get it, he had a motive because he was getting bullied for being an incel.
Which for me, because I honestly didn't know any of this
Did
red
you
pill
not
stuff.
know?
I
Oh
did
my
not
God,
know any of this.
I mean, have you not been
I
on
mean, I've
Reddit?
I've heard
Are
the
you
I've heard
on
the
Reddit?
term I've heard the term like red pill and like
Mm-hmm.
I mean I think I generally knew what an incel was,
Yeah.
but like I hadn't actually seen like I didn't know I did not know at all what a red pill meant or what all the heart colors meant. I did not know
Oh,
any
I
of
didn't
that.
know that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I immediately, like, I know what red pill is. Red pill,
Oh,
blue
I did
pill.
not.
It's like
Yeah.
the
I mean, I
Matrix,
just
but
the
like a
Matrix. That's all
extrapolation.
I. Yeah, I
But
don't
it's
know it
like
from anything
a
else
it's
other
like
than the Matrix.
yeah, no, I knew about it. And then like I was very suspicious. I didn't know about the hearts though. I'm not that
Mm.
down with the emojis, but
Actually, I still
um
don't know exactly what the red pill means.
I
Other
think
than
the
does it
red
symbolize
pill
incel
I what my
behavior? I don't know.
understanding is that the red pill is like kind of in the like for like men, it's like
Hmm.
you decided to see the truth, and the truth is that men are like the
I
toxic
see.
masculine, like you've bought into it, you're like awake to the reality of like life or something, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Is my typing super loud?
It's very loud, but I
Oh my
think it's
god.
fine. It's like a sound effect, kind of.
Yeah, no, yeah, I am actually right. Red pill terminology, it grew in male supremacist forums. So it's like they're awakening that they are supreme to women. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's thankfully, I guess I grew up not really being on social media too much
Well,
through high
good. That's why
school,
you
and
turned out
then
so like such a like normal
relatively normal.
good person. But yeah, I think end of episode 2 is when you get that first like hint as to what the overall series is trying to be about.
Hmm.
And then you also finally get some resolution as to where he got the knife. His friend admits that he's the one that supplied the knife. But then that's when you also get the confirmation that the friend truly did have nothing to do with it, and it was
Yeah.
just Owen Cooper's character, like this kid that you met in the first episode. It is him, which I was
Yeah,
kind of
there's
sad
no
to.
beyond a
Yeah,
shadow of a doubt. There's
yeah,
nothing you couldn't.
I was kind of
Yeah,
sad to
he
see
did
that
it.
because I don't know I think you are seeing it from actually Hunter brought up this point.
Hmm.
You are seeing it from his father's perspective. And
Hmm.
so, like, you know, like you're kind of seeing it from his, you kind of follow his story throughout
Hmm.
the 4 episodes. And so it's kind of sad for him because that is the character that you kind of identify with. And so you're kind of seeing it, at least for me, as being a little bit older, it's like, oh my God, like if this were my son, I would be so devastated.
Yeah.
You're kind of following that story. I don't know what your perspective was.
I think, yeah, I definitely was probably more closely relating to the father
Mm-hmm.
in the episode. I don't think most of the people watching the show, I think, are also like older
Right,
adults with
right.
kids.
Yeah. Okay. So then we get into episode 3 with this like infamous sandwich scene.
Hmm.
This episode is so interesting. This episode, they literally only got it on their last possible chance. So take
Hmm.
like day 5 out of 5, last possible chance. That's when they finally got their like cut for this episode. It's because this was the first episode that they filmed. So I
Yeah.
think they were still working out the kinks and
Which
stuff like that.
tall
Yeah.
order for
Yeah.
Owen Cooper to come in, this first day, and he's having to do this like incredibly long monologue and
Yeah.
like
Fair.
perform at that level,
Fair.
which is
I was
crazy.
surprised to see that it took so many takes at first because watching the episode, it's kind of just he has a court appointed, or not court appointed, his lawyer
Hmm.
arranged this therapist. I think he was evaluated by a therapist, like one therapist, and this was the second therapist to kind of help his case and
Hmm.
evaluate him, give like an objective opinion about his psychological state and how he felt about committing the murder. I think that's
No,
it.
yeah,
Am
that's
I
right.
right?
Yeah.
And so she comes in, and you kind of just seeing they've seen each other a couple visits that we haven't seen
Hmm.
on the series, and then she's coming in I think for their final visit. So they have a working relationship at this point, and the whole episode is her sitting with him at the prison and in their private room and kind of talking about the case again. Very
Yeah, and
interesting because when they first sit down, sorry, you're going to say something.
no, I mean, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, it would, I think from the get-go, she comes in, she's bringing him like hot chocolate and a
Yes.
sandwich. It's
Mm-hmm.
very much like he's a child. Like,
Yeah.
let me take
Yeah.
care of him and like treat him as such.
And he
And I
starts
think
out
that,
the,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, and then in turn, he starts out the interview shy, kind of
Hmm.
flirtatious. Like, they have a very cute teacher student kind of relationship. Like,
Hmm.
he's like, kind of, he's honestly kind of flirting with her.
Hmm.
right? That's kind of the
No,
sense I
I
got.
got that
Yeah.
vibe. Yeah, he's just kind of playing a little coy and like
Mm-hmm.
being cute with her a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she like gives him this little sandwich, and he's like appreciative of it. I think he doesn't like that there's like a pickle in it or something.
Hmm.
And then he finally like I think he takes a bite at some point.
And then like the very end, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The course of the episode is very interesting because I think this is like 9 months in, and he
Hmm.
still is not really admitting that he did it. Like
Yeah, there's
he's still
no sense of
right.
responsibility or
Mm-hmm.
anything. Especially, I think there's a whole. I think it's the closer to the end of the episode,
He
he has a whole
finally,
monologue about
yeah,
like I could have done something with her, but I didn't. Like that makes me better than
yeah,
everyone else. Like
yeah.
that
Like
level of
it's
just kind of
he kind of
delusion.
finally, without admitting it, throughout the course of
Hmm.
the episode, she asks him a bunch of questions, whatever. Finally gets kind of a breakthrough where he kind of finally says that he did murder her, but
Hmm.
he feels like he's not that bad because he didn't assault her sexually in the
Hmm.
process, which he thinks makes him better than most men, which is crazy that that's his view of the world.
Yeah, that's like in any way makes him a good person, I think is
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. And then you get that iconic scene at the end where you go from her at the beginning giving him his cute little snacks, and she can't even touch the sandwich that he bit out
Hmm.
of at the end because she realizes what a monster he really is.
Yeah. It's like there's no child here.
There's no
It's just
child here
this
anymore. Yeah.
very troubled man
Yeah.
has gone
Oh,
through this
man.
transformation. Through the episode, you can kind of feel that transformation
Yeah.
happening because he starts having these outbursts, and you can start seeing the
The
anger that led
rage.
to this
Yeah.
happening.
The
Yeah, and
rage. Oh,
it's
my God.
genuinely terrifying when he's like standing like
Mm-hmm.
a few inches away from her, like yelling at her, and you
Mm-hmm.
can see the fear in her face, and you feel scared too, just because it's like
Yeah.
you don't expect that from somebody so innocent looking, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was if you like when we break it down this way, it is very iconic and like cool. Watching it though, was it a little boring? It was a
Yeah.
little boring
Oh,
to
for
me.
sure.
Oh, did you actually?
I was
Okay,
zoning
all
out
right.
through
Can
like
we
the
just
first
keep it
half of
on?
the episode.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think it took a lot of time and like to
To
build up
get to
to it.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do I think they needed the time to build up to it? Probably.
Yeah.
I think it's not.
I
It wouldn't
think,
have been as
can
impactful
I
if they
be
had to like
honest?
run it
Like,
and
I
have
get
him.
it. I get it. Like, the
Yeah.
one shot thing was great. I
Yeah.
think that's where the one shot take kind
Really,
of, yeah.
I think it maybe in this specific episode added
Mm-hmm.
a lot because
Really? I did
normally if
not
this
feel
were a
that
normal
way.
TV show, right, you
Mm-hmm.
would they would be in this room, they would be talking, he'd have this
Mm-hmm.
huge major like screaming at her type thing, it would cool down. And then it would cut. It would have to cut somewhere and cut to
Mm-hmm.
somebody else or someplace else, but it doesn't. You just kind of just keep sitting
Yes.
there and you
Mm-hmm.
keep feeling the same discomfort because
You know
it's
what
the same thing that
I
just
would
keeps
have
happening.
preferred? If I can make a note, because we're
Hmm.
also watching the studio right now, so I'm going to pretend like I'm Seth Rogen.
Hmm.
If I can make a note, um, I would have liked episode 4 and episode 3 to kind of have been shown in parallel. So it would have been cool
Mm.
if there were cuts of the family talking about him. Because episode 4, I mean, smooth transition
Hmm.
into episode 4, it's kind of his family, I think a year later, processing all of this.
Yeah, 13 months from the
13
this
months
happening.
straight.
Yeah.
You're right. It would have been interesting to see their story in parallel with this one because it kind of is the same conclusion. Because episode 3 is this therapist realizing over the course of the episode, oh, this guy, he became a monster. And
Hmm.
episode 4 is his family coming to that realization and accepting, where he's come to. It would have been cool for those to be kind of working together to kind of keep it interesting instead of just kind of feeling both episode 3 and episode 4, I felt kind of
Hmm.
claustrophobic.
I guess. I think it would have been hard though, because
Mm-hmm.
Jamie was not in the same place. In from episode 3 to episode 4, clearly a lot of growth happens.
Fair.
Kind of
Fair.
behind the scenes for him to kind of again spoilers for episode 4
Yeah.
at the
I
very
mean,
end
we'll just move right
changes
ahead. Yeah.
change it he changes his plea from not guilty to guilty, and I think that
Right.
is a huge shift from the Jamie in episode 3 who's like not even really taking accountability for what he did. And I think
Right.
that's a huge difference.
So episode four, like, like we said, 13 months later, starts off with his dad's birthday, and they find that local kids like spray painted nonce, Nonce, and
Mm.
it's a derogatory term for a sex offender.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that kind of that's
Yeah.
interesting.
But yeah, anyway, so the dad sees the slur on his van. It's clearly like an attack on Jamie,
Hmm.
like Owen Cooper's character. So that's his how he starts off his birthday, and it's actually his work van. So he
Hmm.
has to go get it taken care of. So you follow the family to like a Home Depot kind of store,
Hmm.
and the employee there recognizes the father as Jamie's father, and he's also an like part of this incel society, and he's like, oh, I'm actually on Jamie's side. And the father's so
Hmm.
disgusted by this that someone that feels this way is supportive of his son. And then as he walks out, and the street kids are back, and he has a confrontation with them and kind of loses it in front of all the Home Depot
Hmm.
employees. That's kind of his birthday. And then he comes back and talks to his wife, and they kind of have a conversation where they're like, how could we have raised a son that's like a murderer? And they finally kind of accept, like, we raised
But
him the same
yeah,
way we raised our daughter. Yeah, what were you going to say?
exactly.
Yeah.
I think the other big thing that happens is on the drive home,
Mm-hmm.
Jamie
Oh, he
calls
calls. Yeah.
and he's like, hey, wishing him happy birthday, and then at the very end they kind of pull into the driveway and he's like, hey dad, I'm gonna like change my plea to guilty. And I
Yeah.
think that is kind of what set both of them a little bit onto
Mm-hmm.
the edge because it's
Right.
like, he did do it and he's admitting he did it. There is no question anymore. Like,
Like
and I think
he's.
for them that's like,
Mm-hmm.
that it's final.
Yeah.
He did it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to show this perspective. I don't know that there's like as, iconic of a movie that shows the perspective of the family going through accepting that their family member's a criminal.
Hmm.
But it's just so devastating to watch those parents. They're so normal. I think it would have
Hmm.
been very easy for this show to make the parents abusive or deeply
Yeah.
neglectful, but they were normal, suburban, middle class, caring parents, normal human beings. And yeah, I mean, their son went on social media and he bought into like Andrew Tate and like, I don't know, is Joe Rogan considered one of those type of like toxic
I don't
masculinity
know.
podcasts? I'm not sure.
I think
I
it
mean,
leans
that's,
in that direction for sure. Yeah.
and he just kind of got radicalized into this very narrow-minded way of thinking to the point that
Hmm.
he was driven to murder someone over it. And yeah, it's super sad.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's the point. It's so real. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason that you could say, my kid couldn't do this.
Right.
Because there's no like, oh, his parents were abusive. Like I'm not
Yeah.
abusive, so
Yeah,
like
yeah.
my kid
It's a
wouldn't do that. But
very
like,
normal family. Even the
but I
sister
think there's yeah.
is a very sweet sister. She's not like a disconnected
Hmm.
sister. She cares about her family. She's a citizen of the
Hmm.
family.
And she does well in school, and she's very
Mm-hmm.
engaged, and like,
Yeah.
but it's just
And you can
none of
tell
that
that
mattered. Yeah.
her and Jamie had a good relationship, like a
Hmm.
normal brother sister relationship. Yeah.
It's just I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then I think the kind of scene in where they're in the bedroom, the two parents, and they're kind of like they're asking each other, "How did this happen?"
Mm-hmm.
I think you brought it up, and I think they're going back, and they're like, "Oh, should we have gotten him a computer? Should we have given him access to the internet? He like
Mm-hmm.
wanted this so badly." Um, and it's like it's just kind of it's such a real kind of thing to go back and question all the
Yeah.
decisions you made that led to this. And even for the dad, he was thinking about it. He's like, the business took off. I kind of couldn't spend as much time with Jamie as I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think kind of the subtext that you can kind of get from that is maybe for Jamie at least not having his dad around as much, still being present and like he was still there and like clearly a good father, but maybe not just physically present as much as he could have been just because he's
Yeah.
working and like it's a very
Yeah.
normal thing.
Yeah.
But maybe he kind of filled that role of, you know,
Oh,
teaching
like
what
an
it is to
absent
be a
father.
man
Yeah.
by kind of getting these
Consuming
things
this
from the
media.
internet. Yeah.
God, that's so sad.
Which is, I mean, it kind of sucks that that's what he had to turn
I
to.
think I want to say there was a moment where they were like, well, we both work. Everyone
Hmm.
works. Like they
Yeah.
turned to each other, they're like, were we neglectful? And they're like, but every parent, like in this day and age, both
Hmm.
parents have to work. We can't just sit at home babying our kids the way they might have
Yeah,
been
no,
able
that's
to
just
do a
it's not
generation ago.
realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the difference is now parents work and then the
Kids
kids
are
aren't
sitting
just
at
like
home.
hanging out with
Yeah.
their
They're
kids,
getting
the other
parented by
kids, and
their
they're
phones.
yeah, the
They get
internet
parented by
is
their
kind of
phones.
filling a little bit of that hole, which
Mm-hmm.
is unfortunate.
I mean, yeah, I think that's why the popularity of these family YouTube channels, a lot
Hmm.
of their consumers or like their eyes are kids sitting there kind of living vicariously through this like like this family unit that they don't maybe get. And
Oh, what are these
that's
YouTube video like
there's
family
like
video?
famous like YouTube families, a lot of
Oh,
them.
like Ruby Frankie.
Oh
Have
God,
you seen
that
that?
I've seen that.
All right, yeah.
That might be another.
We're
Have you
really
seen
going
it?
down a dark path.
Dude,
I've seen it.
have
Yeah,
you oh
I've
man, we need to
yeah.
talk about that at some point.
We're going
That
down
was
a
a
dark path
that was a
of
ride.
television.
Yeah. But a lot of her consumers are kids sitting there vicariously living through this perfect
Mm.
family unit, this idyllic like idea of what family can be. I mean, even as a kid watching Disney Channel shows, you would sit there and you would kind of live vicariously through like Good Luck Charlie. Like, oh, like the
Yeah,
perfect
but
family unit.
I don't think Good Luck Charlie would have driven you to to
No, not
murder
quite the
somebody.
same way. But that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like these kids now, what they have available to them, they don't go sit there and like just watch Disney Channel. They go on social media and they watch YouTube families. It's a lot less filtered. Mm-hmm. It,
It was-
so I think it's interesting because, kind of the parallel between Jamie's dad and Jamie. So Jamie's dad in episode 4 talks about this story about how he had this like really embarrassing thing happen to him in front of like the entire school. I think it was at a dance, and that's how he met Jamie's mother. And everyone was making fun of him, and he was kind of getting bullied. But instead of going down the trajectory that Jamie did, Jamie's dad kind of learned or like moved through it. And I think that was like they were kind of trying to say like back in the day when you didn't also have social media adding to the bullying and like the
Yeah.
psychological trauma that bullying can have, you're able to be a little bit more resilient than kids are in today's day and age when,
Hmm.
it's not just, you're getting bullied in person, you're also getting bullied on social media. And that's
And it
adding to
feels
the
like it's
psychological trauma.
immortalized. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
it feels like it's
immortalized.
immortalized on the
You take
internet.
it
Yeah.
home. You're
Hmm.
looking at the bullying and reliving the bullying sitting in bed on your phone.
Hmm.
So it's harder to move through it and be as resilient as people could have back in the day before social media.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think that's a great point. And I think the other thing that we kind of learn about the dad
Mm-hmm.
in the fourth episode is that his dad was abusive to him. And that, there was
Oh,
definitely a very real
yeah.
chance that, he could have done the
He was
same
higher
thing to
risk
Jamie,
in
and then
some ways, yeah.
it would have made sense maybe then why Jamie did what he did. But he's
Mm-hmm.
like, my dad hit me, but I never touched Jamie. I was always a
Yeah.
good father. I tried to be a good father, and yet
Mm-hmm.
how did we make it? And
Yeah.
I think that's yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of a tragic.
Why don't we wrap this up and talk about the last scene? I
Mhm.
think you had a good point about that last scene with the teddy bear in the bed.
Yeah, I think the original ending of the show was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be Stephen Graham going under the covers himself and then kind of
That would have been weird.
re-inhabiting where his son was and
That
kind
would have
of
been
saying
weird.
goodbye to the child he had. But
Yeah.
I think they did make a good choice and having him put the teddy bear to sleep and kind
Mm-hmm.
of putting to rest
As like a
the
symbol kind
child
of
that he
thing.
had. Yeah, and
Yeah.
now accepting that he now has this man, a very flawed man, as his son. Um, and I
I
think
thought it was cool that they
it
had
was
like his family photos
yeah.
set
So
up.
behind the scenes that you could see in the shot, he had they put up actual pictures of Stephen Graham's wife and kids and a little note that said like "I love you, Dad" kind of in
Mm-hmm.
the background. So when he was doing that scene, he could see all of that, and I think you definitely saw the emotion come out for him in that moment, and
Hmm.
I think that was it. It definitely was a good ending for the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a contender for an Emmy, right? I
Hmm.
think it's like, people are talking about it getting a nomination for limited or anthology series.
Well, maybe
I,
not
I
so limited if they're gonna make a season
A
two.
season two. Yeah, fair. Yeah.
I'm sure it'll win something.
Yeah.
It's what the third most watched English programming on Netflix
Mm-hmm.
ever, English language programming. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it'll definitely not the same characters, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe um, looking at from the female perspective, what other issues they have to experience in the social media
Is
age.
that
I
what
think
the
that would
second season's going to be about?
I'd put a good chunk of money on
You
that
think so?
because it
Yeah.
makes sense
Oh,
as the
fair. Like
next type of story
adolescence
to
from the
tell.
perspective of a
Yeah,
girl. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this is very kind of male specific, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so does it not qualify to be in the limited series category if it gets a season two? I
That
don't
I don't
know.
know.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to look
Yeah,
into that. Um,
yeah.
because I know that the Monsters series that Ryan Murphy does,
Hmm.
those are allowed to get nominated for that category.
I'm
So I
sure
don't
if
know
you're
if
not like, yeah, if it's not the same
continuous
characters kind of
story.
continuing through, yeah, it would count in that realm. But yeah, I think that kind of concludes our thoughts on adolescence. Tune in for next
If
week's
you guys have
episode.
any thoughts or interesting points about the show you want to share with us, hit us up on social media. Our Instagram page is up and running. But yeah, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. This has been Give Me the Remote. I'm Anne,
I'm Joe.
and we're your brother and sister duo. We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good one. Bye.